Hi, welcome to the second episode of the Amateur Anglers Podcast. I'm Keisha.
I'm Jayden.
Welcome. If you didn't watch our first episode of the podcast, go back and watch it. We asked our viewers to send in any questions that you might have around fishing, business, like lifestyle of a guide or an angler trying to fish tournaments, or just learn more in general about fishing.
Yeah, so I'm going to back up here for a second. If you haven't watched the first episode, go back and do that after this, like she said. But
yes, after this, not right now.
The whole idea of this podcast is to direct everything towards people that are getting into fishing, aka amateur anglers.
Like me.
Hence the name of the podcast. So we asked all the viewers from the first episode to ask us some questions in the YouTube comments, and we're going to answer some of those today. We're also going to tell a couple stories and answer all the questions that we got about people new to fishing, people wanting to know more about my guiding career, how I got into it. I think there's a question about a smallmouth bass in there somewhere too, I think there is one, yeah. I think there's one.
But before we get to the questions, I kind of wanted just to go over what we've been doing lately. I wanted to ask you, or I wanted you to tell whoever's watching or listening to this, what have you been up to the last few days? What was today for you?
Today?
Yes.
Oh gosh. Well,
I kind of have an idea of like where I was kind of trying to go with this, but I'll let you answer first and then, yeah.
Okay. Well, this week is my last week with the ice castles on the ice. It's the winter portion of my business.
It's the majority of it.
Yeah, the majority.
Would say.
The busier part of what I do. So I have some fancy ice shacks that I have out on the lake. Rent them out to people from all over the place. And this is my last weekend or week for that. Weather's really nice.
Don't. Come back. Come over here. Come sit with us. Come sit with us.
Lay down.
Don't bug us right now, please.
Come lay down. Lay down, baby.
Sit. This is Rusty. Guest appearance today.
This is the last week I'm going to have my ice castles on the lake. It's super nice this week. Weather's getting a little warmer.
It was 10 degrees today. 10 degrees Celsius.
Yep. Snow is starting to melt. Ice is starting to melt.
Crazy.
But it's still getting into the negatives at night, so everything's fine. But this is the last week. We're going to go away on Saturday, so I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. Today, though.
And today...
your last check-in.
No, that was yesterday.
Oh.
Yesterday was. Yeah.
I thought that was today.
Yesterday was my last official check-in, so now it's just everybody's here for the week. Did some deliveries. I did some maintenance on some generators, did some oil changes, changed the spark plug.
You moved a castle too, didn't you?
Moved one castle today, yep. Fishing was a little slow in the one spot, and where I put them now, it's good. They caught a lake trout. They caught 20 fish before I left this afternoon, and
wow.
I'd imagine they would have caught quite a few more in the evening too.
Probably, because you were home before sunset, so.
Yeah. There were 4 lake trout caught today.
4?
4, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like good ones?
Yeah, they're all good.
I know, but were they really big? Were they
Yeah, the average size on Lake of the Woods where we're fishing is 33 inches.
Oh, that's good.
For lake trout, and they're all
nice
somewhere in there. A couple maybe a little bigger, a couple maybe a little smaller, but they're all over 30 inches, like everyone. I don't think I've seen one under 30 inches this year.
Your guests have had really good luck this year with lake trout. Almost every single week I've heard you come back home and tell me about someone catching a nice lake trout. That doesn't happen every year.
Yeah.
Not at all.
It seems like every year it's getting better.
Yeah, which is really weird.
Yeah, this year by far has been the most lake trout in total through everybody.
Mm-hmm. And it's all guests. It's not just not every single one, but it's not a specific guest who's a pro trout fisher. You know what I mean? They're not targeting this fish all the time so they know how to do it. It's just anyone who happens to be fishing, even without trout bait or whatever it is. I don't think you can bait for them here, can you?
You can, yeah. It's
Like where you're set up, I mean.
like the people, I give everybody pointers that comes.
Yeah.
So, half of them come on just random stuff that you're jigging inside the shack for walleye or perch. Mm-hmm. And then the other half come on like a tip up with a treble hook and a frozen Cisco, like a 6-inch Cisco.
Right. I didn't know if you could put like.
Yep. Where we
use
are, you
Ciscos
can.
here.
There's a couple places you can't fish for lake trout at all or use bait at all.
Right. Like Clearwater, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a map of that in the guest book that I give people.
Okay.
But we're not in that zone, and the fishing's been really good. So
That's
I
awesome.
give people pointers on what to do, where to set up, things like that. So it's not like a fully guided ice fishing trip by any means, but it's like a semi-guided one.
Yeah.
So like I give you the lay of the land when you come, show you what to rig up, where to put it, what to do, what to expect, like when the fish are going to start to come in, so you're ready.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Like, everyone's been doing great this year. Like, and anyone who hasn't been, you've moved them right away, and then they caught them. So, I think everyone's been pretty happy with the fish that they caught this year.
Yeah, it's been a great year.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's really good.
I'm excited for it to be over, but it was a great year.
I'm so excited for it to be over too. Yeah. He's a one-man show right now, so he does everything from plowing to setting up the ice castles, sometimes cleaning, depending on the day. He does hire a cleaner for the days that he has a bunch to clean, but I don't know, you do everything. So it's really nice that he's almost finished for the season, because it is a very long season. Even though it's only a couple months, it feels like forever, because he is gone like at least like 12-hour days most days, and he works 7 days a week all through the winter. So yeah, we miss him. It's a lot, and sometimes there's tons of snow all year round, so that takes up a huge amount of time as well. I remember, actually, what was it, it was the year that I was pregnant, I think
2 years ago.
Yeah, so when I was pregnant, I didn't see him all winter long, because we got so much snow that year. I don't know what to compare it to, but it was so much snow that every single day, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 days throughout the whole winter that he didn't have to plow, and he plowed his ice roads every single day, and it was just him. He was doing all his other jobs as well and plowing. So he was working probably like 16-hour days every single day all winter. That was insane. So yeah, this winter was a lot easier considering there was barely any snow.
Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of it, which is nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. But still, though, you're still really busy doing everything else. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's nice to be done.
If you're looking for a job next winter, hit me up.
It's probably going to be hiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, just about done. Done on Friday. That's when you're taking them all off the ice. And done for the season.
That's it.
And we can start getting ready for summer guiding, but we're going to take some time off first.
Yeah, like always in the springtime, we'll take a little bit of time off, and then summer guiding starts.
Yes, yeah, which you enjoy a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. But we got like quite a few comments from the last podcast.
Thank you guys so much for writing down some questions for us. I will...
It was actually a little bit overwhelming. We have so many. We won't be able to answer all these today.
No, but we'll answer some of them, and then we will answer the rest at some point if we don't get to them today.
Yeah, and some of them I might even warrant like an actual video to go over some things.
Yes.
I can't remember every comment off the top of my head right now, but I think I remember reading a couple that I needed to go a little bit more in depth. I might need some props.
Okay.
Like hooks and tying lines, whatever.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I will, if I read one that you aren't prepared to answer today, we'll just say what? Well, you just tell me. You'll answer it another time, and then we'll go on to the next one. Okay?
I'll do my best. I think it will be okay.
I think the first one that I wanted to read off today was, what's your opinion on the health of the fishery on Lake of the Woods?
That's a good one. Who's that from?
Andrew...
Yeah, say his last name.
Barichuk. Barichuk?
I think you're going to have to...
I think it's Barichuk.
He stayed at the Ice Castle in January.
And you never asked him how to say his last name?
I did not. No.
Why not? Andrew, please let us know how.
Yeah, help us out with
Send Jayden like a voice memo or something and tell us how to say your name.
We're
But anyways, thank
Andrew.
you for the question.
Yeah, so the fishing on Lake of the Woods, a fishery like in general, in my opinion, is getting better and better every year. That's all fish species. So I think the biggest thing that people talk about now are the walleyes and the walleye population. We had some regulation changes this year, going from you could keep 4 18 inches
Per person.
Yeah, 4 per person, 18 inches or smaller. That was resident, non-resident. And then you could keep one that was over 18. It didn't matter if it was 19 and a quarter, 24 and a half, 29 and a half, whatever. This year, they changed the regulations so that you as a resident can, with a sports license,
You can only keep 2, right?
you can keep 4 still.
Oh.
But they all have to be 43 centimeters or below. So that's 16.9 inches. Or you can keep one that's 70 centimeters and above. That's 27 and a half inches or better. I think that's what the conversion is. But the only reason they have that is just for tournaments. So that you can have like an over in a tournament. Nobody's going to keep a 27 and a half inch fish.
Some people would.
Some people will, but that's morally wrong. And I think that everybody kind of is on that.
They also don't taste as good if you're going to be cooking them. Like, I find the smaller ones taste better.
Most people have the understanding now that, you know, if you catch one over, like a big one, you're not going to keep it. It's just, it's just morally wrong. It's the same thing with any fish species. I think everybody's educated enough now.
No, they're not. They're definitely not, but I know you hope that they were.
Most people are. And I guess I should say it differently because we're speaking to people who might be a little bit newer.
You're thinking of like all of the people that you know who your life kind of has intertwined with somehow, so they obviously know something probably about fishing. They've been around it.
That's right. So I'm going to say
so
that
it's not
different.
everyone.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any fish that's bigger, the reason they have these regulations in place are so that you aren't keeping fish that are going to be spawning, like the prime spawning caliber fish. If you think of a fish's age from, let's say, 0 to 5. This is just an example of it being up to the new regulations of a 43 centimeter walleye. Let's say it's 5 years old when it hits that 43 centimeter mark. You can imagine how many fish are in that 0 to 5 year old class, which are the ones you can keep. And exponentially, as you get over that year, like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, there's going to be naturally less fish in each year class as you get older due to, you know, just the relative laws of nature. Fish are going to die as they get older. It's the same thing with any species.
Animal, human, anything.
Yeah. So the reason this is that once they reach that, again, for example, quotations here, 5-year mark, they become, I don't know the exact science because I'm not a scientist, but they become mature for breeding. You want to preserve that class of breeding fish because they're going to produce more and more of those, again, for the example, 0 to 5 year age class fish that you can keep and take from the lake. So if you have more fish in that age class that you're able to keep and you're preserving the ones that are eligible for spawning and bigger, you're just gonna
an eligible bachelor.
Yeah, if you are saving the eligible bachelors, then you will keep the fishery healthy.
I'm sorry, I'm really bugging you right now.
So revert backing. So to revert back to whether the fishery is healthy or not, yes, I believe it is. They just imposed the new regulations. That's been a good thing. And then also, just over the past, 3-4 years of doing this in the area of the lake that I have been, every year the fishing has been getting better. And we were kind of speaking on the lake trout earlier today too. we're catching more lake trout than we ever have, catching more walleyes than we ever have, catching more perch than we ever have.
Perch is insane. Like, that's just on a whole nother level. But, like, I never seem to catch them very much in the summer. So, like, why is that?
It's just because we're not fishing deep enough to target them.
In the summer?
I believe they...
Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. We're also not using baits small enough either.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's a lot different in the summer.
So you will catch them, like, walleye fishing in 35 to 45 feet in the summertime, too.
Like, I have caught them.
Yeah.
So it's just not very...
It's easier to catch species that we want to catch more in the summertime, so we do, like, walleyes are shallower generally, the bass are all up there, and that's what we spend all of our time doing.
Do you know why the perch don't move shallow like the rest of the fish tend to?
They do. I think they, like, there's always a population of perch, like crazy amounts of perch, the smaller ones, like the ones that bass, pike, muskie feed on, like 1 inch to 6 inch perch. There's an incredible amount of those in all the shallow weedy bays. And then I think once they hit a certain maturity level,
they just go deeper.
They might go deeper, or it's just that population of fish that's out in the main basin of the lake. They live out there, they spawn out there, they do everything out there. And it's just in recent years that we're, catching them, targeting them, and exposing them.
Okay, that's... I don't know. It's kind of confusing to me how the fish... Like, I am always asking Jayden, like, how do you know that these are going to do this or this? Like, depending on the species, if we're fishing for bass, I'm like, but how do you know they're going to be shallow at this time of the year? And sometimes on a different year, if the weather's been different, you know that they're not going to be there. Like, it's really complicated, but you seem to know, not perfectly, obviously, but you're pretty good at finding them, like knowing where they'll be. If it's been an early spring, super warm, whatever, you know that they're going to be in a certain area, most likely. And if it's been like a colder, later spring at this time, it's probably not going to be in this area yet. It'll be somewhere else.
A lot of that's trial and error and experience all wrapped in one. So just trying things and kind of, seeing where the anomalies are and where the majority of the population is at certain times of the year.
It's a lot of work.
It's been a lot of years. But then reverting back to the perch, all the ones that we're catching out deeper like that, they all have eggs in them. Like, they're all females. Everyone. Which
is so weird.
Unless males somehow carry eggs.
They're huge.
Yeah, they're all, like, super fat, full of eggs perch. I don't know why. But...
And especially because you're, like, catching all of those ones. So, like, how are they still producing so many? A lot of people keep all those perch that they catch.
Yeah.
Like, we don't usually, but...
And again, year after year, there's more and more and more.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah, those things just survive anything. I don't know. Perch are a weird fish.
Hey, they're on our logo.
Yes. We love them, perch.
Love them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We mentioned in the last video we were wearing our Northwest Outfitters hoodies. Or I was wearing a crew neck, he was wearing a hoodie, but we mentioned that we should be wearing the Amateur Anglers Club hoodies or t-shirts. So I made Jayden put one on today.
Yeah, we got merch. Check it out.
Show the back.
Link in the description below.
I gotta hold this for you. Okay. Show the back. Hopefully it's on there. Alright, get back over here. Probably didn't even show the camera. Oh well. Okay, let's get on to the next question. We kind of answered this one already. But one of the questions from Scott Miscavige?
McTavish?
No, there's no T.
Oh.
Where did you get that from?
Just sounded right.
Can you talk about how the fishing regulations on Lake of the Woods can vary depending on your location? Example, bait, no bait, or some of the new changes recently. We kind of touched on that. Can you just go over quickly the bait / no bait.
Yeah, so we did touch on the new regulations for walleyes, but what he's referring to is on the west end of the lake where I do all my ice fishing, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 specific bays that you aren't allowed to target lake trout at all while there's ice on the lake, like from January 1st when it opens until I can't remember the exact date, but you can target them in the summer. You just can't target them in the winter at all. Where these places are, it is Cul-de-sac Lake, Echo Bay, Woodchuck Bay, Deception Bay, and Clearwater Bay. So they have a cool map, and I have this on the guest book that I send everybody that comes out to the ice castles or brings their own fish house up. I show them a map of it, outlining where all these bays are, that there are restrictions. So in the wintertime, you're not allowed to target lake trout at all. You can fish in these bays. You just have to really make sure that you've got your T's crossed and your I's dotted. I's dotted, T's crossed. On what exactly you're doing. Because if you are, let's say deeper than a certain depth range using a bigger bait, and you could be perceived as targeting a lake trout in these bays, like or lakes or zones, you can be charged.
Yeah, and they're really good at finding you and knowing when you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
They're trained for that. That's I don't know even what
they're doing their job, and that's great. Yeah, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, exactly. So just don't try and think you're gonna, get away with it if you're trying to do something you're not supposed to. Just be smart about it. Just if you're lake trout fishing or whatever, just make sure that you're somewhere that you can be doing that, and just do it properly, I guess.
Anyways, in the summer you just can't use bait in there. All year round you can't use bait. You can use one hook, and it has to be barbless. So that means that if you have, let's say, like a jigging spoon with a treble hook on it, you just have to pitch your barbs on all 3 hook points of that treble. That's considered one hook. So if you have a rattle bait with like 2 hooks on it, you would have to take one of the hooks off, pinch the barbs on that other treble, and you're good to go with that. You just can't use bait, and you have to make sure that you're using a bait that's small enough to indicate that you are fishing for a fish such as like a perch or a walleye, up shallower. Like, don't fish deep because you will be perceived as fishing for a lake trout.
Yeah,
there's great fish, like great fishing, lots of walleyes, lots of big walleyes in these places, but you just really have to make sure that you have one hook, no barbs, no bait, and you're using a bait that's small enough and you're shallow enough so that you can't be perceived as fishing for a lake trout.
Can you clear that up for just a second? You said no bait, and make sure you're using a bait that's small enough.
A lure that's small enough.
Thank you.
Yes. No bait, meaning no fish or fish parts.
Live bait.
Yeah, no fish or fish parts, and you make sure that your lure is small enough so that you can't be perceived as
that makes more sense
for a lake trout.
Thank you. Okay. The next question that I wanted to read off was, what is the biggest smallmouth you've ever caught? He's curious. I believe, is curious to hear about it. It's Edmonds Outdoors.
I wonder who that is.
I think it's a he.
It must be.
I didn't actually read the name until.
So I'm pretty sure he knows the answer to this, but I'm going to tell it anyways.
Was he with you?
No.
Okay.
Sean was with me. Okay. That was in the fall at White Dog. So there's a tournament in White Dog on the English River system. It's one of my favorite tournaments to go to every year. I love that lake. There's giant fish in there, fish of every species. There's tons of them. Favorite lake.
It's really cool out there. So crazy.
It's a reservoir, so it was an old river channel that they dammed up, and it's 40 feet higher now, so you have flooded timber everywhere. Cool little back channels to like back lakes that also got flooded.
Nothing's really mapped either. Like, a lot of it,
there's no map at all. Yeah, so it's intimidating to go to for the first time. It's a large body of water. It's called One Man Lake, Kettle Falls, and then what's the other part? Umperville Lake. So if you look those up, that's where it is. And we were fishing in the tournament. It was the first day. It was, I think, our second fish. So it was
this past year?
Yeah, this was this past fall, fishing with Sean. We get up to where we're going to go, where we'd found them in practice. Mm-hmm. We stopped there first. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Not a fish to be seen. So we fished there for probably 45 minutes, maybe even an hour. And it's a pretty short day. Like, we only have, I think it's 7 hours to fish. Takes us a few minutes to get there. Fish for an hour.
It's so far.
No fish in the boat. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. We can fish until 3, I think it is. So we had to our second spot, which is another place I had found a fish in practice, like a good one, and then I left. So get up there, make a few casts, don't really see much, and then we see one bust, like just on the surface. So I go over that way, and then we see them on the live scope. They're all kind of just like milling around on the bottom. And Sean drops down kind of in front of me, and I don't know what I was doing. I think I might have been fixing my bait or something, but he catches one. It's like a 3.5 pounder. Like, it was a good one. I think we waded in that day too. And then there was a few that had come up with it that I could see on the live scope. And they looked like, it was odd because they looked like they weren't bass at all because they were way too big. There was 3 of them. Anyways, I had dropped my bait down and I was just sitting there because a lot of the times when a bass will bite, especially in the fall, you'll have the buddies come up, and then that's what fires them up to bite your bait as well if you're sitting there waiting for it. So when Sean had this fish on, like, he netted it himself because I knew, like, these fish were going to be coming. And a 3.5 pounder was like, it was a good fish, but not one
not
that we
for
were
there.
like, yeah, not one that we were like super pumped on. So I was just like, okay, you net this one, I'm going to try and catch these ones. So as he was netting it, I get one of these fish to bite, like, I just watch it like slowly come up and just like kind of kiss it, and then I just went thunk. My rod tip went down, set the hook, and this thing comes up instantly and tail walks like a dolphin on the water. And Sean's like, is it a good one? I'm like, yeah, it's a big one. So it dives down a bit, kind of like pulls drag for a while going out, because I had my drag pretty loose. I don't know, it took 40 feet of line kind of going out straight from the boat. Sean had his fish in the net still, and I said it was like a really big one. So he comes running up to the top, like to the front deck with me. By that time, it comes and jumps back like it's coming towards us. As fast as I can reel, this fish is coming like straight at the boat.
Yeah.
It jumps again right at the boat. It lands as Sean lunges at it right on the rim of the net.
Yeah.
Right on the rim. And then it tail walks out of the net.
Oh my God.
And I'm looking at this thing like I knew it was a big one, but I didn't know how big it was.
Yeah.
So tail walks itself out of the net again, and I thought I lost it because it was just like running away on the surface, like Jesus.
Walking on water.
Yeah. And then after it kind of tail walked, it stopped, and I the way I was holding my rod, I guess it was just like kind of laying on the surface and just like slowly coming. I just remember it being more in slow motion than anything, but it was coming back as I was pulling. Its head just kind of like turned, and Sean lunged again and got it finally. So we had 2 big fish in the net. His was that 3.5 pounder or whatever, and then the other one was my biggest fish ever. I think it was a 5.29.
Okay.
And that was big fish of the day on the first day.
And for like, I don't know, for anyone who maybe watches Bassmaster or anything like that, like, you see enormous bass all the time, but 5 pounds for this area is huge.
Yeah, 5, that's my biggest bass ever.
Yeah.
I bass fish a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for here, like a 4 pounder, like if you can get one that's 4 pounds or better,
It's really good.
That's amazing. There's places like Southern Ontario, New York, Minnesota, even South Dakota. They have places where, you know, you catch some 6, 7, 8 pound smallmouth. And I guess theoretically you can catch a 6 here, but I've never heard of anyone bigger than.
No, and I think even at all of the tournaments that I come to watch you weigh in and everything, I think like the biggest one I've ever heard of was Cole's at Bassin' for Bucks. That 6 pounder or whatever it was.
Like a largemouth?
Yeah, it was a largemouth, not a smallmouth.
Okay.
So then for smallmouth, what's the biggest for that you've seen in like the tournaments?
Like the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen might be, I think close to 6 or maybe just over 6, like I said.
Really?
I don't remember who it was or where it was. I think in Bassin.
But usually the smallmouth, I feel like the biggest ones I've seen are like maybe close to 5 pounds.
Yeah, like normally about 5 pounds is the biggest you're going to see
Yeah.
at a tournament on any lake around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But largemouth, we do have big largemouth. It's just that there's not very many of them and they're not very reliable. So I personally like smallmouth a lot better.
You just haven't put too much effort into largemouth either. I feel like you focus on the smallies because it's kind of what you know, and you've kind of figured them out a little bit. So I think that's why you do that more.
I've spent a lot of time on largemouth too.
Not when I've been with you.
Much before I think I've learned that it's not worth it.
It's not your thing.
There's just so many, like, largemouth used to be a thing, like early 2000s, like when Jeff was winning every single tournament. Jeff Gustafson, Shoal Lake, KBI, Basses for Bucks. He'd be in the top 3 every time. Like, he still does well at mostly every tournament still.
Yeah.
But back then, like, there was a few guys that were winning with largemouth and getting top 5s every tournament. You know, mixing it up with largemouth and smallmouth. Now you don't see that. Like, maybe the odd fall tournament, you'll see it one with largemouth, depending on which lake you're on. But for the most part, like, I would say 90% of the tournament, 95% of the tournaments are all one, and the top 10 all consists of all smallmouth here. Like, I don't know if it's...
Not KBI the last couple of years, though. The guys that did really good, like, I think they came second.
That was
like
an
2 years
exception
or
because of the
something.
high water. So when
Okay.
we have high water, the largemouth will push up with it.
Okay.
It congregates them up on the shoreline stuff rather than them being off in the weed beds and wherever they go. I don't know. They spread out when we have a normal water year, and when we have a high water year, it pushes them up with that rising water. They typically will ride that up, and they'll get up in the shallow grass and the trees and as far back as you can go. And there's a few different places that you can go to catch them really well, obviously, when it is. But still, like, I think smallmouth won that year anyways.
I don't remember. But I just remember that they did really, really well with the largies.
Smallmouth are just so much more consistent. That's why I like to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's... Yeah. You
But I'm
just
not shy to do it. Like, I'm not shy to go for largemouth. I've just been burned so many times.
No, you don't want to waste too much time looking for the largies when they're just not there, when you know you could catch some smallies.
Yeah, it's just more consistent. So I think it's a safer play in every tournament to just chase smallmouth around here anyways.
Okay, so we're not actually going to answer that question on this one. We're going to gather a few stories. Jayden's going to...
Maybe that's what we'll do on the next one, is we'll just answer that question more directly, and we'll have a bunch of stories.
Yeah, you'll think about some stories that you have.
So episode 3, that's going to be what that is.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I like that one. I like that idea. Okay, Natalie Miller, 7511. Can you talk more about working at fishing camps? I truly think anyone who loves the outdoors and is okay with working hard should do it. Best experiences ever.
Yeah. So last episode, I was talking about how I got my start with guiding and working at a fishing lodge. And I totally agree. It's something I did that shaped me to who I am now. And I truly believe that, like, obviously because I still do it in a way. But I learned so much doing it, like, just like about work, life in general, people especially.
You learned a lot about people.
I learned a lot. But yeah, it was a great experience, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. So I'm just trying to think about what I could talk about that some people could kind of relate to. Do you have any ideas?
When you worked at fishing camps. So it wasn't only during your co-op. When you were doing your co-op, you obviously weren't living there.
I kind of was.
Were you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had to be at school half the day. You were a full day co-op?
Yeah, so the way that worked was the first half of the semester was school, and then the second half of the semester was just co-op.
Oh, okay. I guess
So
that's the only way you could really do it, to do that type of co-op, because you can't just do half a day.
That's right.
Boat all the way out there and then all the way back. Okay, so including that time, but you also worked at fishing camps, like different ones, or a different one at another time as well, and you have to like basically live out there while you're working there. Even though you're from town, it's like, what is it, like a 40-minute boat ride out there?
The first one I worked at was about a 25-minute boat ride.
Okay.
And the second one I worked out was about a 40-minute boat ride from town.
Right. But okay, so either way, it's, you don't really want to be boating back and forth every day using your own gas money and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
you
so
kind
we
of have to
stayed
live
out
out there.
Yeah.
So what is that experience like?
So each one was a little bit different. The first one I worked at, we were in a smaller cabin. I had the cabin all to myself, actually, which was kind of funny. Yeah, like me, 16, living in a little cabin by myself.
No one wanted to live with you, that's why.
The other one was kind of like, it was a row of rooms.
Yeah.
Next to the bathroom, and then I had my own little cabin. So it was kind of nice. But yeah, I would get up at 6:37, depending on if I wanted breakfast or not. If I wanted breakfast, I think he might have had to be there at 6. I'm not a big breakfast guy.
Even back then?
No, I value my sleep a lot more than that.
Yeah, you do.
So I just like get up quick, and I'd have some sort of granola bar or a protein shake or something, just like ready to go in the cabin. Get up at 6 o'clock or 6:30, start work at 7.
Okay.
Work until 3 to 4. On a day that we were doing yard work, kind of going back to the start. But then on a day when you're guiding, you get up at 6. You have to go to the lodge for 6:30 to get your lunch for the day. You get your drinks for the day. Go down to the boat, get your boat ready, clean it up, wipe your seats off, make sure that you have all the shore lunch equipment, and then you take off at the dock at 8. Go do your thing, have shore lunch, come back. You're back to the dock by no later than, I think it was 5.
Okay.
So then when you get back, like, supper's ready at 6. So you can choose to eat supper or you go fishing. So a lot of times,
because you have free time, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
So as soon as we got our guests back, like, we could do whatever we wanted.
Then it's like, then it's the chef's turn to do like dinner or whatever. Like, you guys were off at that point.
Yeah. So we would go fishing until it got dark, and a lot of times it was June, so it gets dark here at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So you'd always
So I'm
go
on
out
the
fishing
water
with your
from like
boys.
8 until 10, and then you sleep and do it all over again. And there were some nights, like on a slower night or whatever, like on a weekend, you would like get together with the people and have a couple drinks and socialize.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, I was super quiet, and I was always a super quiet person throughout high school. I was still in high school at this point. I was very quiet. I loved fishing, and that's all I wanted to do. So I would get up at 8, go to work, go fishing all day, come home, grab something quick, like whatever they made, head straight back down to the dock, and I would go fishing again until 10, wake up, do it all again.
So it's like a really great experience for someone who is probably young, doesn't have any responsibilities quite yet, like kids or your own pets or whatever, because you need to be able to go to an island and live there all summer. But they feed you.
Yep,
right?
they fed me.
You live there for free, obviously.
Like, free place to sleep. And yeah, it was a great experience. I learned so much about it, because when I was fishing in the evenings, along with guiding, like, I would make a point of never fishing the same spots again. I would always be exploring and looking around and learning.
Yeah.
And as far as fishing goes, like, I learned so much doing that just on my own. And then also, you get to see all the other guides out there as well.
Yeah, you can
and some
learn
days,
from them.
yeah, so you learn from everybody. And some days you might be struggling, and they'll give you a few pointers. And then some days, somebody else might be struggling, and you can help them back.
Yeah.
And then there's, it's very rarely where somebody is, tough to deal with and won't help you out.
Yeah, like, I mean, everyone's kind of there for the same reason. I feel like from my experience being around the fishing community, for the most part, everyone seems to be pretty friendly and pretty helpful. And like you and your buddies, and even like people coming in that maybe are like maybe Edmonds Outdoors or something like that, like you seem to be helping each other out quite a bit, and you guys are also like willing to teach them new things and like just help each other out in general. So it is a really good community for the most part. So
yeah, and it's so fun, helping your friends out. They help you out with new stuff that they find too.
Yeah,
you just kind of work together to learn as much as you can. And then where I really all tie it back in together is my love for the competitive side through the bass tournaments. And I love getting as much information and learning as much as I can and exploring so that I can do better with everything I do within the tournament scene.
Yeah, and that's like one thing too is with fishing, like you can't really like screw yourself by helping others, because no matter what, the fish is not going to be in the same spot every time you go there. So if you happen to show someone one time like where you're fishing, or you tell them about something, like that's not going to help them out so much that it screws you out of maybe catching that fish. Like you're not going to catch the same fish.
Yeah, and so this is getting into more of like an advanced topic, which I'm okay with. I think we can go into that a little bit.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing is your open-mindedness, especially when you're getting information from people.
Yeah.
This has burned me a lot, is when somebody would tell me something, it would resonate in my head so much that I would keep referring back to it as I am trying to learn it for myself. And if something, you try something, it doesn't work, you always revert back to what they said. Try it, revert back to what they said. And it's keeping you from seeing clearly, exactly what you need to be doing, maybe instead.
Yeah. Sorry, I know you said don't move, but my leg was getting sore.
That's okay. So being open-minded, receiving information closes your mind off in a lot of ways to being open-minded and to trying new things. Because if somebody tells you something that works,
yeah,
there's something in the back of your head that always just makes you want to do that, rather than, taking your own experiences and learning things for yourself properly, and then understanding how and why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay, were you done with answering that question? Sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even know where I left off.
But Rusty was getting so loud, like he was just gonna get in the way. Okay, so we actually have answered almost all of these questions I've read out.
Okay.
I think all of them, but
let's do one more.
Okay, so
and we'll end on that. It's getting late.
Rob 2063
from North Bay
said, "Great podcast from North Bay area. One day I will be fishing in your wheelhouses. Just have to convince the wife. LOL. So worth the drive, in my opinion. Have you spent any time talking or fishing with Gord Pizer or his grandson Liam from Kenora? Either of them would be an interesting guest on your podcast. Also, what is it like living in Kenora? Is great fishing the main attraction to Kenora? Thanks." So let's start with, have you spent any time talking or fishing with Gord Pizer or his grandson Liam from Kenora?
Two-parter. So Gord Pizer I've spoken to maybe a couple times. Very casually, nothing ever super serious in passing.
So what does he do? Like, is he, like, I don't know anything about him. I know I've heard his name.
You don't know Gord Pizer?
No, I'm sorry, Gord Pizer, but I do not know you. So
So Gord's been around Gord's been around for a really long time. He lives here in Kenora.
Okay.
So he's pretty famous as far as fishing goes, fishing personalities. I'm not sure if he ever had like a fishing show, but he's always been a writer.
Okay.
So
he's in like the magazines and
all
stuff
the
like
outdoor
that?
magazines. He's always been a part of that. He's been a part of fishing shows, like other people's shows. I'm just not sure if he's had his own. But he's done some YouTube stuff as far as YouTube stuff goes. early on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
And then, his grandson Liam, is that just like he just fishes with him a lot, or?
Yeah, so Liam is a year or two, maybe 3 years younger than me.
And you know him?
Yeah, so he hangs out with Lucas a lot. That's at sports headquarters.
Okay.
I think he's in Southern Ontario for school right now, but he's got a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of following his grandpa's footsteps as far as his fishing stuff goes. But he actually makes really good videos as well.
Okay.
Yep, in depth fishing videos.
Like teaching you how, or just like fishing videos of him, like
teaching you how.
Yeah.
Techniques.
Okay.
Yeah, technique specific stuff. He does a really good job. He's got some, good thumbnails, and he does a really good job with it. But no, I don't really talk to him much. He went to high school when I was in high school. I talked to him a few times there, but
yeah,
so
never like you know really, them, but not well.
Yeah, I know them, but not super close or anything.
Okay. Also, what is it like living in Kenora?
I love living in Kenora. I've always loved living in Kenora.
I know you have.
Our downtown's a little rough now with some homelessness, but aside from that, like if you stay away from the downtown part, Kenora's great. We have so many different lakes. If you are into hunting or fishing,
beautiful.
It is your paradise. We have Lake of the Woods, which is right here.
Winnipeg River.
Yeah, Lake of the Woods is a great overall fishery as far as every species goes, and you can catch a trophy of any species there. But we have so many other different lakes.
Yeah, Lake of the Woods is just probably the most well known. It's famous Lake of the Woods for fishing, whatever. I mean, it's not whatever, but it's a gorgeous, amazing lake. But there's also Winnipeg River, which is literally just on the other side of the train tracks, in Kenora. Yeah. So
truthfully, Winnipeg River is my favorite.
I love Winnipeg River.
Aside from up north by White Dog, like I was talking about earlier, I love the whole Winnipeg River system. It's a lot less busy, a lot less traffic, a lot less cabins.
Still a lot of really gorgeous cabins on there, though, and houses.
There are, yeah, but I just, I love it up there.
It's not nearly as, congested, it seems.
Mm-hmm. But if you're into hunting and stuff, too, endless amounts of bush. It's all crown land, not a whole lot of private. There's so much to explore. So if you love hunting, you love fishing, this is definitely a place you want to live. Yeah. Just try to stay away from, downtown. Live on the outskirts if you can, and
you might get in some
you're good.
Get some flack for saying that. But
really?
I mean, there are a lot of really nice local shops in Kenora, but
just too bad where they are.
I hate being downtown these days. So
yeah, it's
we try and avoid it.
It's no secret. If you're trying to be oblivious to it, get with it.
I don't want to get too controversial on this.
I will.
Topic right now.
Our downtown is
you
not
gotta cut
very
off
nice.
my feet. They're not free.
I will.
Thank you.
Our downtown is not as nice as what it used to be. But hunting and fishing is great. So live on the outskirts and enjoy the lake.
I want to move somewhere warmer.
Yeah, it gets pretty cold in winter.
It gets so cold here. Not really this winter, but every single other year ever. Okay, and the last part of this question was, is great fishing the main attraction to Kenora?
Yeah, so I just kind of said that. That's what I was going off of.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. So yes, it is.
For you, I don't think
the
it's
main attraction?
The only thing. Yeah,
for sure it is. What else do we have? I think it's
the lake, but not necessarily fishing. I would say the lake in general, just the gorgeous lake, all of the islands where there's so many cabins and stuff like that. I don't think it's necessarily the fishing that's the main attraction. But it depends who you are.
Right.
And what you do and what you like doing.
Beaches and stuff. But the fishing's pretty sick. The lake in general.
Okay, so this is something that we are a little different and we grew up differently. So I grew up, my family, my dad still owns this house that I grew up in, but he lives on the lake. And so I grew up water skiing, wakeboarding, tubing. We even had a banana boat at one point, which is actually hilarious.
What even is that?
It's a giant tube where it's a banana and there's room for 5 people to sit on it, and it's a tube and you just go around the lake.
With a motor?
No, you tow it behind a boat like a tube.
Oh, Okay.
But we would tow it behind the Sea-Doo. I don't know how, but like growing up, like me and my friends, or me and my brother and our friends, would go on this banana boat. There's like 5 of us and we're like 12. We're not like little kids. And the banana boat on its own is quite heavy, and my dad would tow us around behind the Sea-Doo. Because like really, almost my whole childhood he had Sea-Doos, not any boats. I think there was like 1 year or something that he had a boat. I don't even remember, but we would always get towed behind a Sea-Doo, and it was so funny now that I think of it. But yeah, I grew up wakeboarding, water skiing, tubing, things like that. And you grew up fishing. So my family, like doing all of those things, is like water sports, and also had lots of friends on the lake with like cabins and stuff. Like we didn't have one, but we'd go visit my parents' friends and like just go to their cabin and go swimming and do all of these water sports. So like that was my childhood, and that's what the lake means to me. For you, you grew up fishing with your grandparents and your dad and everything. So like,
yeah, I guess
we have a very different take on maybe what the main attraction would be.
That's a good point. But the lake,
yeah, it's the lake in general, not necessarily the fishing.
Right, but the fishing's still pretty sick. So
yeah. So that's probably our last question for the day.
Okay. Yeah, it's getting late, so we should probably cut this off.
Yeah, I'm ready for bed.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for watching or listening. We are on Apple Music.
Not yet. We're not on Apple Music yet. We will be soon.
Oh, sorry. It hasn't been verified yet.
We're waiting 5 business days to be verified.
On Shopify.
We're on Shopify, though.
We are on Shopify, but what I meant to say was Spotify. And what else are we? Just Spotify and YouTube so far?
iHeartRadio or something. I can't remember.
Okay.
The 2 big
Anyways,
ones.
we're getting there.
Shopify
we just
and
haven't,
YouTube or whatever, right?
Yeah. Apple. Okay. Can you tell I'm tired? Apple Music just takes a little bit longer to verify your account.
Yeah, but we're going to be up soon, so you'll see all this soon.
And then once we're up and running, this next one will be on there as well.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Drop your comments below of any questions you have regarding fishing.
Yeah.
Lake life, whatever you want, and we'll make sure to answer them in episode number 4, because episode number 3 we're gonna dive deeper into some.
Okay, don't like promise that, because I don't know for sure that you're gonna have time, because we're gonna be away for a few days. I don't know if you're gonna have time to think about all the stories.
Maybe.
Well, then it won't be just episode 3. We have to like have one in between. Anyways, we're not gonna promise that it'll be episode 3 that you talk about all of those stories, but that is coming in the next few weeks. So it'll be like episode 3, 4, or 5, or maybe 6. But it'll be like one of those.
Anyways, drop your comments below. Any questions you have, we'll make sure to answer them in one of the next episodes. And
thank you so much for listening. And we will see you next week.
See ya.